Good morning, everybody. Happy Wellness Wednesday. This is Roxanne Harris, and welcome to the kitchen table. Today, we're joined by Robin Parr, Hannah Justine, and Pamela Macy, and we're going to have some great conversation today talking about wellness. And the topic of the day is going to be all about de-stressing and sleep. So, pay attention for that. We'd love to hear from you. So you can comment in the chat stream, and we would like to, tackle your big questions about sleep and stress, but have fun just learning from each other and things that we do. And this morning, I just want to start off with a quick little quote from cute quote notebook that you got me for Christmas, and it says, "When you love and laugh abundantly, you live a beautiful life." And isn't that really true when we're looking at health and wellness? And I have noticed, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but people who laugh a lot and love hard, they seem to, be enjoying life a little bit more than the Eeyore rain clouds around that. And, sometimes my husband's a bit of, I'll say a clown a bit. He's got a little bit of his late grandfather's personality, in that he likes to do a lot of pranks and joking around. And usually ends up being at the butt end of the jokes, because he's raised some fierce kids that give it back to him just as fast as he dishes it out. And so there tends to be a lot of laughter in our family. I try not to participate in that because I'm not as witty as they are. So although I have got some good ones in the years, and the kids are always shocked at that. So last night we celebrated Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday. And Scott was in the kitchen and made a beautiful Mexican fiesta. And I was quite impressed because I was at the Rise Live conference this weekend in my own kitchen, dancing and, getting my hands up and all the stuff. And one of the things that Rachel mentioned, and it just hit me so hard, was, some people are really mourning things that they've lost over, the past couple of months. And she was talking about, maybe for some of you, that's a holiday. Yeah. I was supposed to be in Mexico celebrating with my sissy Robin, her sons, James and Teslin's wedding. And I had been priming for this for a long time. We didn't go to Hawaii on the doTERRA incentive trip because I was going to be going to Mexico, followed by immediately on the day after that, I was going to be going to Kenya to speak at a Christian women's conference as one of their keynote speakers. And then followed up by that, I was going to Hannah's wedding, and there was a lot of work that we need to do. So, I had to make some sacrifices, but, the only thing that kept me pushing through the extremely long winter was this: we're going to Mexico. And Scott would say this often: you're going to Mexico. Hannah would say this often: but Mom, you're going to Mexico, right? Like it's coming. And she talked about it. And one of the things that was really interesting in the conversation was, whatever you've lost or perceive that you've lost, whatever you're, thinking that you're missing, how can you bring that home? Right. And, and so she even went on to say, well, if you're missing the beaches, of Mexico, right? What is it about that experience that you like, and how can you bring that home to experience it? And I don't know if Scott was kind of listening in the background, but he made this Mexican fiesta. And I mean, it was a fiesta. So, he did all the stuff for fajita slash kind of tacos, but we of course had it as a salad. He made this massive, like, beautiful bean dip. It was like a fried bean with melted cheese. And he even went above and beyond and made us all pina coladas. And we had a great celebration yesterday. And so I thought, wow, it is, for me, it's the cultural experience of being in Mexico. It's the food, it's the flavors, it's the music. Of course, it is also the smell, the beaches. It's funny when we go to Mexico. One of the first things that both of us will comment when we get into a resort is, yeah, it smells like Mexico, because Mexico has a very distinctive smell because of the high humidities. And anyways, so we didn't bring the smell home, but we did have the Mexican flavors, and that was so much fun. So I'm going to challenge everyone, if you feel like you're missing something from the last 2 months, you missed out on an event or whatever, what components of that event are really, what you were looking forward to? Like, was it the music, the people, the fun? Do you need to have a video conference with some of the people that were there, and party a little bit together, put on some music, have a virtual dance party, right? Do you need to cook some food? So if you were someone that was going to get married and you were going to have chicken Kiev, well, girl, Google that recipe and make it and have that celebration at home, right? And so I think that's something that we can all do, figure out why that was going to be special, and then how can we bring those pieces together. And so that was my thought. But, last night there was a little bit of crazy going on because Scott is somebody who likes to chew ice. It's like chalkboard, fingernails on a chalkboard to me, like, for real. He's also someone who likes to chew his ice cream. Like, what? And so my daughter Cadence is dating a boy named Evan. And the first time that we kind of went out for dinner with him, they wanted to have some gelato. And Cadence quickly went into the, yes, but as long as you don't chew it. Because she has the same, issue as I do. And he's like, what was wrong with chewing your ice cream? And then they had this little battle. So yesterday, I will have you know that Scott started chewing his pina colada. And I was like, what? No, no. So we had some fun about that, and he annoyed us with that. And we had some good laughs over pina coladas. But guys, Wellness Wednesday. I want to talk to you a little bit as we want to unpack a little bit about de-stressing and sleep. I want to know how many people are having problems with their sleep, and if their sleep issues have to do with levels of stress, and maybe some of our kitchen table guests can talk about what they do to alleviate stress and help with sleep and that kind of thing. But I want to open it up by talking about this amazing little canister that I picked up a couple of months ago at Tao's. Shout out to you in Montreal. Best freaking organic grocery store in the world. Yes, people, even over Whole Foods. I know, but it really is. And so I want to talk about this little beauty, lavender moon milk. And I want to start by prefacing this by saying last week I decided I was going to be like all hoo-hoo and have this, lavender moon milk during our episode so that we could talk about it. Lavender moon milk, I heard about from Rachel Hollis. Apparently there's some cafes in the US that actually sell moon milk, and you can go, and apparently makes you feel amazing and so like alive and calm and peaceful. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get some. I saw it. It was retardedly expensive, for real, guys, like it was on sale for like $20 for this little container. And so I started drinking this, and I'm like, yeah, it tastes pretty good. And I'm feeling all chill. And then after our show, I went to my office, and within an hour, I was like, oh my gosh. I fell asleep in my office, and I had to pry myself off of my desk, and I had to go and have a nap. I literally was completely out of it. My husband came and woke me up a number of hours later, and I was still like, what's even happening here? So I want to share the ingredients with you because I've been doing a little research, because I kind of looked at the ingredients and thought, oh, that's great. It's very calming. It's restful, relaxing. So here's the ingredients. It's basically ashwagandha, which is known as an adrenal adaptogen. So if your adrenals are fried and you're freaking out and you're stressed and overwhelmed, ashwagandha is supposed to bring them into balance. It's got lavender, coconut, and tart cherries. Those are the primary ingredients in lavender moon milk. Now, I use actually ashwagandha in my clinic, and I use it for adrenal support. And I don't find that it sedates people. So, what is the magic on lavender moon milk? Lavender moon milk is a warm and soothing lavender tea latte for a calming way to end your day. It's made with ashwagandha, which help ensure restful sleep. Coconut, dates, lavender, which is calming and relaxing, and surprise, tart cherries, which apparently are a very high source of, you guessed it, melatonin. So, as I started digging into this awesome little formula a little bit more, ashwagandha helps to cope with stress. That's really what it does. It actually boosts energy, promotes health, can help cope with stress. It has a sedating and calming action that can be useful for sleep. But my guess is that when you combine it with the tart cherry, super high in melatonin, that's going to put you to sleep when you are already sleep deprived. So the moral of the story is, if you need a good night's sleep, highly recommending shout out to Botanica lavender moon milk. It tastes pretty good. It's naturally sweetened with dates, so you don't have to add any sugar or anything like that, which makes it a really great alternative. And then I did find out that Botanica also makes a turmeric golden milk, which I'm pretty sure maybe the Rachel Hollis, this is what she's drinking at the coffee shops, because it's got chocolate, as well as turmeric and ashwagandha and dates and black pepper. So this would actually, in that combination, actually wake you up, perk you up, and help you to feel on top of your game without passing out at your desk. So that was my story. I will not be having lavender moon milk during today's episode because I actually do have to work today. But so my question is, who's used ashwagandha before, or what do you use, when you're feeling stressed? So go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, I use ashwagandha as a daily supplement. If you experience high anxiety levels, a good functional medicine doctor will tell you that it's a good supplement to take. But it's also, it can also be a nice light way to help you fall asleep as well if you're really running high. Yeah, I just got mine at Sangster's. So.
Yeah. So again, like ashwagandha is a really interesting herb because you can use it during the day, right, to keep yourself calm, reduce stress, panic, but also feed your adrenals so that, your metabolism ramps up. But it is very calming, which is why it also works to help put you to sleep. Because if you're someone who's very anxious and you can't sleep because of anxiety, the ashwagandha will actually just calm you down and help to bring you to a place of level balance. So, it's not an herb to be afraid of. I just didn't realize that when we combine it with our friend lavender and tart cherries that I would be actually comatose. So don't recommend it while driving. They should have a label on that.
There's also, if anybody has looked into like hemp supplements to help them sleep as well. A lot of times the hemp supplements will be partnered with something like ashwagandha, because usually the reason you can't sleep is because your nerves are running high. And it's not that you can't sleep, because your body actually does know how to sleep. It just needs to figure out how to shut itself off. So ashwagandha is usually added to help supplement that need to sleep and help you turn your brain off. And they even use it in like dog stuff as well, because I've used it for my dogs too.
Yeah, it has a high safety margin, and so it's something that you can start off with a little bit. Now, because I poured it into a larger cup, I maybe doubled the dose. Again, start small, work your way up. We're all learning here together. So, anyone else have any things that they do when they're feeling either high stress or that they can't sleep, things that really help in that manner?
When what I've been doing lately is just paying attention to my prep before bed. So I, I'm getting ready for bed earlier, even though I'm not going to bed. So I'm actually, going and washing my face and getting in my PJs and just because that just psychologically, I'm in my PJs, I'm more, relaxed. I'm starting to, pay attention to shutting down my day. So I'm not, I'm getting off electronics earlier, just giving myself that time. I grab a book instead of, scrolling before bed. So all of these things, just preparing my body. So it's a transition. So going from the busy, and when my mind is racing, or, you wake up or you're having trouble getting to sleep, I love peppermint. I love peppermint because it actually stops my wheels from turning, and I can just focus on going to sleep, and I'm not waking up thinking. So one of my favorite blends, like I use it in my diffuser. So peppermint, lavender, and wild orange. I love this blend in my diffuser.
We're talking about essential oils.
Yeah, yeah. And so I find that helps me relax. That's my base. Sometimes I'll add different things if I'm, if I've got some other things that I'm fighting, like, I'll put some other oils in there to support. But that's like my base of just a nice, calm sleep. And I watch my intake before bed. So I notice if I have, if I have an ice cream or something a little later or something, it's going to drive my system up. So I'm just being more careful with that. And I'm getting to bed earlier, like at a half decent time, instead of getting that second wind. Because I know if I stay up, like the skunk line, and I stay up, I'll get a second wind and I'll kick in and I'll start, I love to read on research and dig information, and then I'm up. I can be up for hours, and then I'm all thrown off. So I'm just really putting heavier boundaries on myself, and I'm getting back into my earlier to bed. So for me, that's like 10:30, and I'd much rather get up at 6 or 6:30 in the morning and have my 8 hours there, and that way I have a better start to the day. But that for me is my baseline.
Well, and you brought up a couple of interesting points, because many people don't know this, but if you have that propensity that, you're exhausted, but if you stay up to a certain time, and it's usually 9:30, 10, right? And if you push that boundary and get that second wind, that is a sign of adrenal issues, right? And people that are prone to sluggish adrenals or poor metabolism will notice this of themselves. And they're like, yeah, if I just stay up till, whatever their personal witching hour is, that they know they can go all night. And I mean, all night. And they'll be like, they'll often say things like, well, I work better at night. I function better at night. Yeah, because you are like on pure adrenaline. You are just going, and it's very difficult to get to sleep because you're fully wired at that point. So if that's you, pay attention to that. And that's why, Pam's saying, like, I know this about myself, so I know I have to be in bed by a certain time. Otherwise, I can pull an all-nighter and it's not even a problem, right? And so the other thing that's important to note is the before midnight bedtime. And I talk about this a lot in my clinic, that when you sleep before midnight, so every hour you sleep before midnight is equivalent to sleeping 2 hours after midnight, right? Meaning that your sleep before midnight is way more restful and rejuvenating. It gives you life. Your sleep after midnight, your body is actually quite busy, healing, repairing, regenerating. And so, it's getting stuff done. It's why a lot of people will often say, you know what? I fall asleep really well, but I wake up every night at 2, or I wake up every night at 3, or I wake up every night at 4. And these are really important times to make note of, because when we're waking up at a very specific time, night after night after night, it's actually a symptom. If you look at any various types of medicine, they talk about how it's because that internal organ is actually detoxing and cleaning and working hard, and it's not able to properly do its job. And so the brain registers that as, kind of think of it as an anomaly. Oh, something's wrong, and it wakes you up. You're not going, oh my gosh, my liver is having problems methylating. But you're like, how come I'm awake? How come I wake up every single night at 3 o'clock in the morning? Or for those that are waking up at 4, your cortisol levels are not properly rising. And so this is a major stressor for your body, because your cortisol should be starting to rise at that point in time, so that you wake up feeling amazing, that your metabolism is going, that you feel great. And it's not. And so you wake up going, how come I'm awake? Why do I keep waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning? But, as Hannah was mentioning, if you go to a functional medicine doctor, or, sometimes naturopaths or people like that are more plugged in, they're going to pinpoint it right away and say, well, you need help with your, blood sugars, or your cortisol, or your liver function, or your gallbladder function. And you'll be amazed at how quickly then you stop waking up at that time every night. And so paying attention to your body is so crucially important, because on this topic, many people just say, well, I'm not sleeping. I can't sleep. I can't sleep. There are about, probably 100 or more different reasons why people can't sleep. So just saying I can't sleep, right? That's why you're running to the drugstore and you're getting the melatonin and it's not working, because that's not your problem, right? And so really start paying attention to that. Start paying attention to how your body's responding. Is it that, like Pam was saying, the wheels are turning and you can't turn your brain off. And so therefore, you need to start a good sleep hygiene. You need to get into a good routine to calm it down. Or like Hannah's saying, there's a lot of stress or anxiety. Maybe you actually do need ashwagandha or lavender moon milk as a way to help bring the body into a calm state so that you can sleep. Maybe your sleep problem is not a sleep problem at all, but maybe it's a bladder problem, and your kidneys aren't properly concentrating your urine while you sleep, and you get up every hour to pee. That's not a sleep problem. That's a urination problem. But I can't tell you the number of people who have told me that they have a problem with their sleep, and really it's because they're getting up every hour to urinate. That's not a sleep problem. That's a kidney bladder problem, right? And so I think to really ask good questions is so important. And what I will say about this is, I'm sorry, but most medical doctors are not asking you good questions. You go in and you say, I can't sleep, and they give you a sleeping pill. They might ask you, well, how long has this been going on? Are you able to function during the day? Are you falling asleep during the day? They're not asking you, tell me about your sleep, what's working and what's not, right? So I think if we just get back to asking good questions, right, of ourselves, so that if we do end up having to go and see, a doctor because of sleep problems, that we already have asked all the questions so we can give a better picture. Now, that also will lead me to, mention that most doctors will have absolutely no clue as to, why you keep waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every single night. They don't subscribe to that. They don't care about that, because for them it's irrelevant, because we've forgotten that the body is completely interconnected, like a big machine with lots of cogs, and that all of the cogs have to be turning all of the time for the body to function properly. So ask super good questions, and ask questions about everything with your health and wellness, everything that's happening with public health, everything that's happening with government. Ask good questions, right? We are not a species. We're not human beings to just be fed, pills or random information. Like, we are consumers, and we have to ask good questions. And so, Robin, any thoughts or tips or tricks from your perspective on, de-stressing, or, things that you do for sleep, or, sleep challenges that you've overcome?
I don't actually have a problem sleeping. I've sleep trained myself quite well. It is my coping mechanism for my mental health. My body did that all on its own, but I do put myself in a routine. I find if I don't do those things, I feel a little bit off, and I have to actually get out of bed and do the things. So it's, the personal hygiene stuff. I have to put my diffuser on. I kind of I guess meditate or pray or whatever before I sleep. I just close my eyes and I calm my mind, and I breathe very, very deeply. I take big breaths through my nose and out through my mouth, very, very deep, so that my lungs are totally full and then totally empty. And I don't have to do that long. It's a signal to my body that I'm ready to rest, and I can fall asleep very, very quickly. Now, I have had challenges before where I've been up in the middle of the night, whether it is due to stress or something going on where you kind of wake up, something arouses you, and then you're starting to think right away as soon as you're up. So as soon as you allow your brain to start turning and thinking about things, and it goes over and over and over in your mind, then of course you're stimulating and you're awake. So I try and distract myself and think about other things. It's hard if you're under a major stress to calm that mind and not think about those things, because of course they're extremely important to you, and you are stressing about it. But I find even soothing method, like I'll take my arm and I'll just gently rub it. It's a distraction. It feels nice. It's a calming touch. I'm not going to wake up my husband or somebody and say, can you just do this to me so I can calm down and relax? But I think everyone has a different thing that kind of calms the mind and soothes them. You just have to find out what it is and find out what works for you when you're under those kind of situations, whether it's stress or what oils you need in the diffuser to keep your self sleeping through the night. Like, is it peppermint so you can bring in your thoughts, or is it lavender, or so you have to figure out what the problem is, why you're not falling asleep and why you're not staying asleep, and then go from there and then figure out what works for you. So my tips and tricks might not work for Pam, but that's what I do. It's like I said, I've sleep trained myself, so it's something that I've been doing for years, and I'm used to doing it. I guess it's like Pam saying, you're getting yourself into a routine, and so when you're going to bed, your body already knows, and it's preparing itself that it's sleep time. So
yeah, and I think that's very important. The sleep hygiene, which would be the series of tasks or things that you do that prepare yourself for sleep, and then the sleep training. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I do want to shout out a little bit about this absolute crazy notion that newborn babies should be sleep trained. So I'm jumping off the deep end with this, because there are a whole lot of people that somehow have bought into some craziness that newborn babies should be able to sleep 8 to 10 hours through the night. This is completely medically and scientifically garbage. A newborn baby has a stomach the size of a cherry pit. So when they're drinking their milk, they're going to be empty really fast, right? Babies just don't randomly cry. I really don't believe that you can spoil a baby by holding them too much, by, soothing them, comforting them. But What I do believe is when you let your baby scream for hours, trying to quote unquote train your baby to sleep by themselves, what you are actually proving to your baby is that when your baby needs something, when your baby cries, which is their only form of communication, that you will not answer them. And I'm sorry if that's harsh, and some of you need to hear this. The training that you're giving your child is that you don't care, that you will not come when they cry, which is why eventually they stop crying, because you've now taught them that you do not respond to them. And it really saddens me. And I have a lot of conversation with mamas in my clinic about this, and to have that understanding. Babies cry because they need something from you, right? They're hungry, they need soothing, they need a diaper change, they need physical touch, but also understand, they also could be in pain. Maybe they have some colic, right? Also understand that the babies, they pick up on your emotional energy. And if you are upset and stressed and freaking out, it upsets them. And they're reacting, right, because of your reactions. I mean, look at how many times you've even just been with a girlfriend and something's happened, and they start telling you the story, and they start welling up with tears, and then you start crying too, because you feel the emotion. Right? You are not that awesome of a person that you can lock down your emotional, bubble and have it not impact other people. Right? We actually are not that clever as human beings. And so when we're talking about, sleep hygiene and sleep training, yes, these are things that we can use, and we can develop sleep routines with babies, but the sleep routine is to give them a constant of something to expect. So when that child is now 2 or 3 years old, and they know that, after supper, they have a bath, and then they have a story, and then you sing a song, and then they go to sleep, and it becomes an expectation, and it helps them understand that, I am going to be going to sleep, and my body's unwinding because this is what I do before I go to sleep. But just having them scream, as a 1 day old, 1 week old, 1 month old, 3 month old, 6 month old, we can do better than that. Right?
That makes me so sad. That is so, I didn't.
Yeah, it's a very, very popular movement, and it has been for a number of years. And I applaud some of these mamas are doing. I don't know. I can't think of the actual name. It's really a swaddling technique as well, where they've adopted in other cultures, where they're really wrapping the babies, and the babies are next to their skin all the time, which is very comforting and soothing. And so, if we think about when the baby's in utero, the baby is hearing your heartbeat all the time. The baby is also hearing your voice all the time. It knows the sound of your voice and your heartbeat, right? And so now you take it out of utero, your voice does sound a little bit different, and they're not right up hearing your heartbeat. And so think about how weird that must be for a baby, right? Where all they used to hear was this, and now they don't. And so to bring them in close so that they can hear that and feel that comfort. I see a lot of mamas with their newborn babies, like they're just sprawled out, and they're wearing whatever, but they're not in that comfort of being wrapped and warm. And the swaddling, I do believe, is very important for a newborn baby, because it's still giving them that safety or security of being wrapped in the mama's womb. And so I bring that out just as a conversation point. I'm not against routines with babies. I just feel that this sleep training, right? This is not what we do with babies, right? So we don't just let them cry and learn how to soothe and comfort themselves. A baby does not know how to comfort themselves. right? That is beyond the scope of their emotional, capabilities. You are comfort, right?
I remember when so when you have your first baby, you're by the time your second baby comes along, that if you're up, through the night and you're awake and you're just going to be exhausted now to look after your other baby, your toddler. So when my son came along, then you also realize, oh yeah, I don't have to do this and this and this. I just have to, basically feed them because they, but anyway, you adapt. So what I did for my son was we had a spare bedroom, which was his nursery, but there was a bed in there still. So, I mean, you can do this just in your main bed if you want and make arrangements, whatever. But anyway, I brought him in bed and I slept with him for months, and I would tuck the sheets at my waist and put him a little higher than me. So I wasn't, because I was mindful that I didn't want to cover him. And I was, I put it's amazing how our mama radar knows. If we just go with our mama radar and our mama gut, we know how to look after our babies. It's in our genes. Like we don't need, someone else to tell us this, that, and the other. We need general advice, but it makes sense. I need to look after my baby in the night. And so I was it was easy to sleep without, I usually turn on my side and I'm somebody that kind of goes in the fetal position and stuff. I was actually very comfortable to sleep still on my back and just slightly on my side. And when he woke up in the night, he didn't even have to cry. He just stirred. I nursed him, and then I would put him on the other side, and then he would go right back to sleep again. And that's what I did. And it worked out beautifully because I was getting better sleep. Even though I woke up a little bit, neither him nor I had to wake up fully. And that way I had a better sleep. So when it was time to get up in the morning and look after my daughter, I was better prepared. So for me, I can't imagine, I didn't know this was a thing. I just want to encourage any new mamas or any mamas with new babies, young babies, that we are not in a rush to teach our kids to be without us through the night. Like they are hungry or they are wet or they are, we don't know. Again, pain in the tummy. We don't know. Maybe we had something for dinner if we're nursing and it's giving them a little bit of gas. We don't know. We have to look after those main things, those things that we check to make sure. And we want to anticipate before they get to the screaming so that they know that the world and we are safe and we are looking after them, and they don't learn these anxiety patterns. That's what we're teaching them. Yeah. If they don't get their needs met, it's not about spoiling, because they have no concept of self. They're just in survival mode. They just want to eat because they're hungry. They don't have any cognitive reasoning to think through anything. When they're older and we know they can sleep through the night, and they're not hungry through the night, and they don't want to go to bed because they don't want to miss out on whatever, that's a little different. We'll deal with that, when they get older, but please, not your new babies and not young infants like that.
Yeah. And it's true. It's funny because, with our first, we had the passed down family cradle, and, it was so cute to have her in this cradle that, myself, all my siblings, all my cousins had this cradle to sleep in. But, within the first week, she was in bed with us, and all of our babies were in bed with us. And, that might not be your thing. You might want to get up and be in a rocking chair. But your sleep is important. When you have a baby, you sleep when your baby sleeps, especially for the first, at least 6 weeks, right? And, in our home, as more and more babies were added, they were just added to the nap time. So, at nap time, everyone went for a nap and the baby got nursed and the baby went to sleep and mama went to sleep too. And this was a thing until my kids were in kindergarten. They had nap time. My house was not a free-for-all. My house was not, I put a baby down for a nap and I'm doing coloring with the 3-year-old and I'm teaching the 4-year-old math. No. We had nap time because everybody needed nap time or to be quiet. And, sometimes as the kids got a little bit older, they maybe they didn't fall asleep, but that was their time to read, and they would read books. So Hannah was an avid reader. She taught herself how to read by the time she was 4-year-old, like for really reading. Like she could read books by the time she was 4. And so she would read or color or whatever, but they didn't get out of their beds because that was the routine that had been established. Right. And so they weren't crying and screaming, I don't want to be in your bed. So the concept about, that we are allowing our children to dictate the schedule is something that I'm not familiar with, because as the parent, you make the parenting decisions for the optimal wellness of not only, the kids, but also the entire family. Because we know that if mama's exhausted and tired, there ain't nobody going to be happy in that house, right? Because she's not able to cope. And children under the age of 7 are extremely emotionally attached to mama. Whatever mama's feeling, those kids are feeling. And we can't bypass that, guys. You actually can't bypass it. It's impossible. They are not attached to daddy in that way. They love daddy, and daddy's an exciting person, but they are not attached to him emotionally. And so it's really important that you set the routines and you keep to them, because children like routines. And so, I might pick on Hannah a little bit, because Hannah's always been kind of a night owl. And, it would never, it would never, phase me. Like Hannah would always be, everyone would go to bed at, 7 or 7:30, because yes, when your child is 4 and 5 and 6 years old, their bedtime actually is 7 o'clock. It is not 9 or 10 or whenever you get around to it. Children need 12 hours of sleep, right? And so they would go to bed, and, I think it was grade 3 before they were 7:30, and grade 5 before they were 8 o'clock. Like, I was very strict with their bedtime. But, Hannah would go to bed, but, she wouldn't come out of her bed. But, sometimes she'd be going to bed at like 11:30, midnight, and I would hear this, "Good night, mommy." And it would scare me half to death, because of course you think that they're asleep. And there she was coloring by the street light, or, she had her arsenal of markers and pens and whatever in her bed, and you just couldn't take them out. Like anytime you tried to, decrayon her bed, it was awful. It was very, very sad. So, what are your thoughts now, Hannah, about sleep training and sleep habits and things that you kind of learned over the years?
I don't have children, so I moved out of the house and created my own sleep habits. I don't know. I do think that a little bit of structure is very important, because, right, kids, that's why they're kids. That's why they have parents, is because they need somebody to help guide them to become a proper functioning human. And kids can't be proper functioning humans when they're staying up until 10 p.m. They just absolutely can't. And I say that as a kid who did stay up till 10 p.m. and had a horrible attitude all the time because I was constantly tired. And not only me, but like I had friends whose parents used to let them watch TV until 10 p.m. And like, we don't talk enough about how, negatively blue light impacts your body, but it really, really, really does. And the longer or the closer in proximity to when you fall asleep that you're exposed to that blue light, the poorer quality of sleep you're getting. So if you are on your phone until the minute you decide to close your eyes, no wonder you're not sleeping, because up until 2 minutes ago, your brain was being heavily stimulated by this object in your hand, right? And so that same, theory applies to those parents that are letting their kids watch TV until right before bedtime, right? They're not getting the quality of sleep. So yes, they're going to wake up earlier in the morning. Yes, they're going to wake up through the night. Yes, they're going to have night terrors. Yes, they're going to have more sleep problems, right? There's, and I'm going to tell everybody to read a book again, but pick up your kids and read a book with them before bed rather than watching that movie before bed. And if they fall asleep watching a movie after supper, that's awesome. That's super great. But I do think it's important to, at their bedtime, pick them up and do that book reading with them, so that the last thing before they fall asleep is not that TV screen that's just like scrubbing on their brain. But no, I can't speak from experience. I don't have children. I've never had children. a little bit away from having children. I know that even with dogs, though, creating that important sleep structure is so important. And I know that a lot of people right now, you're just getting a puppy and you're so excited for you and your family, but maybe you can't get the dog to sleep. And that's a big problem because dogs need a lot more sleep than humans. And they do sleep throughout the day, but it's important to not just let them do that. Dogs are not furniture that just sleeps around your house throughout the day. You do need to exercise your dog. Your dog's not going to sleep without exercise. And the same rules apply for kids. Your kid is not going to sleep if all they did all day long was sit on the couch. It's just not going to happen. So making sure that they're properly exercised and like actually moving their bodies throughout the day is important. Stimulating their minds is also important. And that could be anything from, working on some training, which can be very passive. It can be something that you're doing while you're sitting on the couch or whatnot. Like just taking the commercial breaks even to turn and just focus on your dog really isn't that much extra work to what you're already doing. We got slow feeders for our dogs so that they're more engaged when they actually eat their food. And we also do hand feeding with our dogs. Another way of like stimulating their minds and building that bond connection between you and your dogs. And then as far as sleep goes, I had very similar rules to my mother when it came to my puppies. My puppies went to bed when I went to bed. There was no pussyfooting around. You got in the bed and you laid down. If you want to lay in bed with mom and dad, you don't move around. It's not playtime. We're not here to have a conversation. And Luna learned that pretty quickly. Both of my dogs, the minute they hear the word bedtime, they go. They know it's bedtime before I even know it's bedtime. Like my dogs know that, 9:30 hits, mom's about to go to bed. Penny makes her way up the stairs. Luna will wait until I will go up the stairs, but she'll just constantly sit there and just stare at me like, it's my bedtime. And I think the same rule should apply with your kid. Your kid should have their circadian rhythm down enough that they know and they start to feel exhausted around the time that they would be going to sleep. So, but I'm speaking all from dog experience. So here you go.
Well, but it's not dissimilar. And it's also why, parents pay attention. Why do your kids start misbehaving when it's past their bedtime? Because it's past their bedtime.
I think that a lot of kids, though, just have issues with structure in general. Like the parents that really want to break the mold of what their parents did, I get it. I totally get it because I also grew up in a mindset that my parents knew nothing. But that's actually not true. Structure is very, very, very important. And if we don't have it, sometimes, we can go a bit too far. So it's important to teach your kids the word no. I hate those parents that are like, I don't use the word no with my kids. Why? You're going to hear no more than any other word for the rest of your life. And if you're not teaching your kid that word, you're setting them up for unreasonable expectations of what life is going to be like. And that's, I think so many, and I'm not a parent, but I think so many parents are ignoring the fact that yes, we want to encourage our children and teach our children, you can do anything you set your mind to, but we also need to teach our children that it's hard work and you don't always get what you want. Because otherwise they're going into the world thinking, yeah, I can have whatever I want because mommy and daddy said that I can have whatever I want if I just want it hard enough. And that's not true. You're not being a bad parent. You're not, teaching your kid to hate you. You're teaching your kid to be a human being. And that's just the facts. And I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of seeing the kids throwing the tantrum and the mommy trying to talk to them calmly. I'm tired of it. Just discipline your kids. Just do it. I get it. Just discipline your kids and teach them that life isn't fair all the time.
Yeah, because one thing that kids and dogs are very good at is the first time that you cave into your rule, right? That rule no longer exists because they will always come back to, but remember the time when I bugged you and you finally bought me that toy? So you're going to be buying a toy every time you're in Walmart now because you no longer have a rule, right? My kids, you can agree with the way I parented or not, but we didn't have temper tantrums in public or in grocery stores or toy stores because there was a hard line.
Because we knew what actually came from those, and all we needed was one glance. One. If you even started to like turn a little bit red in the cheeks because you were getting frustrated, you got one look from my mother and you would shut up. And that's how all kids should be. And I was not beaten as a child. I was not beaten as a child, folks. But you would have thought I was when my mom gave me that look.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, my kids thought a spanking was when occasionally they got a little swift smack on their butt. They were like, I got a spanking. You're like, dude, we grew up with spankings. That is not a spanking. But yeah, like there has to be a hard line. I personally think that grocery store owners are pure evil when they line the checkout lanes with gum and chips and candy and whatever. Because I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm trying to go through grocery stores and kids are literally having complete meltdowns because they want, while their poor mother is standing in line trying to pay for the groceries, right? And then you give and you give and you give. No, that didn't happen in my family because first of all, we couldn't afford it. But secondly, I wasn't buying my kids that garbage. And I certainly was not buying it because they were begging for it, right? So sometimes the conversation would go, we're on a very tight timeline. There's a number of things mommy has to get at the store. And if we can get it done quickly and quietly, I will get you a treat on the way out, right? So letting them know the game plan. Mommy's going to be moving very quickly through the grocery store. There are a lot of things we have to do, and we only have a little bit amount of time. So if we do this very fast and, there's no fuss, you will get a treat. But that was
we had to lay out the rule that we could get a treat before we entered the store. Once you're past the threshold of the store, there's no asking for anything. There's no, can I have this? Can I have that? There's none of that. It was either it happened in the car and we decided that we could have treats today, or there were no treats at all. Same rules did not apply with Dad. But like we used to, whenever Mom used to like go on a trip and Dad would be babysitting, it would be our week with Dad. We used to do one grocery shopping trip. Right after Mom would leave, Dad would go to the grocery store once because he hates going to the grocery store. And so we'd all go in the grocery store and he'd be like, yeah, just pick out something. Just get it. I don't know what your mom buys, just grab stuff. So we used to just grab all of the things to try and feed ourselves. And we just have this storage of food, and Mom would come home and she'd be like, I've never bought that in my life.
Mostly you could see in the garbage, all of the boxes and the evidence. And I'd be like, why is this in my house? And nobody seemed to know, right? But yeah. So dads sometimes have different rules, but it's not because they don't know the rules. I just think that they want to be the fun one. Right, Robin? Nodding. Yes, they do. They want to be the fun one. And so I think it's really important. And Hannah, you were talking about your dogs, and our dogs, we have 3, and it's the same thing. They know when it's bedtime, and they start to get very antsy when it's bedtime and they're not and they're not in their beds. And what's funny is they can go to their beds whenever they want. They're crate trained, but they want to know that it's bedtime. Last night was so sad because it was past bedtime and Andy was sitting on the dog bed, literally 3 feet away from his crate. And so Scott goes into the family room and he's like, okay, the girls were in their beds and he's like, okay, Andy, bedtime. And he's like, no, for real, like it's bedtime. And he's like crawling to his bed, like his legs are broken. Like, how dare you make me get up from this luscious to my crate? It was beyond ridiculous.
But it's true though, like even with dogs though, that theory that dads just want to be the fun one, Jeff always gets frustrated because my dogs listen to me. And like when I tell them to stop barking, they stop barking. And when I tell them to lay down, they are currently cuddled in a puddle right here. Like, it's so cute. Penny's head's on Luna. It's adorable. And they listen to me. And when we're in public, like if I pull on Luna, she listens. And then he gets frustrated because the dogs don't listen to her. And I'm like, yeah, because when I say something, Daddy says, "Oh, but Penny likes this." I know Penny likes this, and that's why I'm not giving it to her, because she's not listening to me. So like they really just want to be the one that the dogs love. But you know what? What I love even more than anything else is, as much as he wants to be the fun one, when it comes to when Jeff's calling them or I'm calling them at the same time and they have to choose, they're picking me every time. They love structure. They love it. Just saying.
And there you go, right? So everybody likes structure. Everybody wants to know where the line is, right? Even an adult, but children, they're always looking for that line. Where is the no-go zone? Where is the fence, right? And they will keep pushing until they meet that resistance that's always going to be the no, right? And so you have to develop these structures. And so whether that's just, I call them the 5 do or die rules, right? These 5 rules that are absolutes every single day, right? Or whether you have more than that, understand that some children are not able to have more than 5 rules. These are our free-spirited children, our strong-willed children. Maybe some people call them indigo kids or sulfur kids, but Hannah had 5 rules. The other kids had like 100. Hannah had like 5, right? But within those 5 rules, she functioned very well, right? But every child needs to know where that hard line is. And if you don't give it to them, they will push and push and push, even to the point of bodily harm or extremely risky behavior, because as much as they say, I don't like the word no, they need to hear it. It's a part of who we are. They need that line, right? And so, Robin, you have kids of a great age range. And so how much of that would you say is true in, parenting, 24 years ago versus, today, and even grandbabies?
Yeah, there's a big difference from how we parented. When I was younger, I was quite more structured, actually, when I was younger. And now that we're older, especially my husband, he is a lot more lax with the kids and more giving and free with rules and things like that. So, and you see it, and when he goes to work, it's the kind of the restart, but they know mom means business and there's no messing around with me. And he comes home and it's just a totally different scenario. He's the fun guy and the whatever, right? So, sorry. Anyways, he's the fun guy and the rules don't seem to apply, or they're different rules and stuff, right? So there is a total different atmosphere in our house from when my first set of kids were younger to now. And now that when Jason goes to work and it's just me and the kids here, it's like we have all kinds of scenarios going on, but they seem to be all right. They know that, kind of like Hannah was saying, they have to choose. When they're hurt and stuff, they come to me because that's what they're used to. They know that, I'm going to take care of them. And if they want something done, they come to me, kind of thing. Right. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny. I would go out of town and someone would get hurt and Scott would be like, oh, they're fine, whatever. And it was usually Cadence who would call me, the youngest girl, Mom, this is what's happened. And I'm pretty sure that they need belladonna, or, she would know the homeopathic remedy or whatever they needed. And I'd be like, yes, you're right. But it was funny because they weren't, as much as they love him and, they value him, they weren't necessarily comfortable with a lax approach, right? They needed to know that, that there was a structure and that everything really was indeed okay. So, it's so funny, it's so funny that, you know what, I'm gonna just check in with Mom, because I know that Mommy would be giving Jonathan, his cold remedy right now because he's got a runny nose. So Jonathan used to be, and I think he still is, really reactive to the wind. And if it was windy, sure enough, he would start with a chest cold, like almost instantly within hours. And so I had this little formula that I would give him, and it would totally stop it. And so, you know, all the kids knew this. And as soon as they would see the like, right, or the little glistening under the nose, Jonathan needs his cold remedy. Because he had such severe asthma. And so they were all on the lookout. And so I'd be like, I don't think so. They're like, Mommy would give that to him. So it's so much fun. So Wellness Wednesday, lots of tips and tricks that we talked about. So if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, check out the ashwagandha, the lavender moon milk from Botanica, just ashwagandha as a supplement itself. Some of the, you know, the sleep routines or the tricks that we talked about, you know, cuddle those babies hard and fierce and love on them, and try and develop your own sleep routine. So just this pattern of behavior that helps you to
Are you on the phone with them?
connect. And so, Father, we just thank you and praise you for this beautiful day. We thank you for just being the light and in our life, and for your peace and hope and joy. And we just pray for an infusion of just knowledge and wisdom, that people would begin to trust their bodies, people would begin to trust, you know, their gut instinct, their mama instinct, and ask questions, and you know, pay more attention, and get more clarity on what's really happening with their health and their wellness. And so we just thank you and we give you praise in Jesus' name. So guys, thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. And if you're looking for tips and tricks on health and wellness, you can join us at Engaged Wellness Warriors on Facebook. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have an amazing day, everyone. Bye-bye.